1. I was barely awake enough to speak to humans, but I had to start my shift and hit the dreaded green button that gives the go-ahead to get calls. Ding! And gave my greeting, which asks how I could help. The woman immediately began yelling at me her issues and complaining, and asked for a supervisor right away, and that she will not speak to me. I remained calm and explained to her I would still have to verify all of her information, and attempt to assist her before a supervisor will even take a call. She yelled some more about how I was not helping, yada yada. I explained again that I would be glad to assist her, that's a lie, and let's get through the verification. Yell, yell, yell. I get yelled at a lot, despite being calm, polite, and professional to these assholes. I'm a very sensitive person. I can't handle being yelled at. It's extremely mentally and emotionally hard on me. I've applied at over 100 places in the last 2 years of working here, but no interviews even when I call the locations and let them know how interested I am in an interview. Anyways, something finally just snapped, and it went something like this. You're going to stop talking and stop yelling at me and listen to me. I'm not going to put up with this. I get yelled at all day for not doing anything to cause the hostility and attacks on me. I get paid minimum wage, and that's not enough to deal with your attitude or anyone else's attitude. I'm a person with feelings just like you. I have lots of problems right now, but I wasn't going to take it out on you and treat you badly. My cat is dying. I'm having health issues. But don't make enough money to see a doctor. My health insurance has a $5,000 deductible and no copay, so I have to pay full cost. I'm stuck at this horrible job dealing with horrible people, and not for lack of trying to get another job. So here's the deal. You can either treat me better for the rest of this phone call, and I can see how I can best help you, or you can be put back in the queue, wait on hold however long for a rep, and go through it all over again. Or just let me help you and not be rude. She actually was silent for a few seconds, said she was sorry and that she was just very frustrated, and will continue the call with me. We did the call. I had to put her on hold a few times to do research to help her. On hold, I came back to tell her I'm still working on it, and she gave me a sincere, heartfelt apology, admitting her wrong, and I let her know how I appreciate the apology. I did solve her problem, though. Luckily, this call wasn't heard, and I still have the job, but I have to be honest. It felt amazing giving it right back to them. 2. I work in Emergency Roadside Assistance, ERS. There are many situations that we don't cover. One situation we can't tow you is if your registration tag and plates are expired. We had a member about a year ago that called for service, and when the driver got there, the tags had expired July of 2010. So the driver told the member we couldn't tow it and left. Customer was at his house, by the way, so not in a dangerous situation. Well, I got a call from the garage, we call tow companies garages, about a call on their board. It was this member again. He had placed another call through. And also, the tow destination was going to a storage facility, which we don't tow to because that usually means the member is just going to store their vehicle, and doesn't want to have to pay for a tow truck, so calls us. Well, I called this member and asked about the tags. He said that he told the driver that he had the tags, and he had just started to get them from his house and they're on the vehicle now. I then told him we can't tow to storage facilities. The guy gets a little huffy and says that he's going to a repair shop that is behind the storage facility, and the storage place is the only building with an address. Okay, fine. I tell him that we'll tow it, but the driver isn't going anywhere within the storage property, and will only drop the vehicle in the repair shop's lot and not outside the gates of the storage facility, like he had suggested. So I called the garage back to give them the go-ahead, and they say that the guy had 2 different plates for the vehicle, and isn't that illegal? What? They didn't say anything about that the first time. So I call the member back again and say, oh, and I forgot to mention, but when the driver arrives, you'll need to show him the registration for the vehicle. This is so we can match it with the VIN on the car and verify the tags are the legal tags and not ones he took from some other vehicle. Well, this guy gets upset and starts rambling on about how he's been a member for 12 years and he's never had this much trouble, etc., etc. Then he goes on to say that while he was putting the tags on, he fell and broke his hip and is waiting for an ambulance because of us. and he's probably going to cancel his membership. What? First, I've never broken a hip before, but I know people that have, and it's painful. He said it so matter-of-factly and didn't sound to be in any pain. He said it in a way that made me think he thought that I would suddenly want to do damage control and say never mind to the registration. And he made it seem like the ambulance wasn't coming right away. Overall, he was just being a total jerk, and I was certain he was lying, but couldn't call him out on it. So anyway, I hang up with him and call the garage back, and tell them what he says about how he supposedly broke his hip, is waiting for an ambulance, and will have the registration. So less than an hour goes by and my coworker tells me that the garage is on the phone and wants to talk to me personally. Turns out the same driver that went there before gets the location again, and the member pulls up and gives him the registration for the vehicle he just drove there in. So the driver goes over to the vehicle needing towed and compares VINs. He did this just to cover his butt, and sure enough they don't match. So he left and called his dispatcher, who then called me to let me know. So I called the member one last time to let him know that because the registration didn't match, he's not getting towed. Well, he was not happy and started bitching again about how he doesn't care what we say. We towed his $60,000 vehicle to a storage facility in the past, so he doesn't understand why it's suddenly a problem. So basically he just admitted he was planning on storing the vehicle. And how he's going to cancel his membership, and he broke his hip, he didn't. The driver said it didn't look like he fell, and he had a scraped elbow, but was walking around just fine. And finished up by saying he doesn't want anyone calling him anymore. 3. Okay, so I've been pissed at this situation ever since I got this call from a customer a few months ago. I swear, if we call center agents could just complain against rude customers, I would file a lawsuit against this person. First off, I'm Filipino and a woman, and I'm working as a telephone banker for a US bank, so mostly all of my calls are from the US. Now, a bit of background about myself. This is a bit important, I think. I was a working student back in the past. I worked my ass off to provide for my education and was still able to give more money to my family. Even as a phone banker, I'm still able to provide for myself, my family, and live very, very comfortably. And I'm already investing for a business that I'm putting up by next year. To sum up, I'm proud to be an independent and successful woman. And why, dear folks, am I bothering you with this info? Because this particular interaction with the customer makes me want to choke the living hell out of him for being racist, sexist, and for feeling entitled. Cue flashback. Full disclosure, some parts may have been paraphrased since it's been almost 4 months since this call happened. Although this is RS3197 with Flippy Doops Bank, may I have your name, please?
Is this a U.S. representative?
No, sir. I'm part of the Philippine branch.
Oh, the Philippines. I love the Philippines.
He didn't sound sarcastic at this. Oh, wow. I laughed, trying to build rapport. Then, all of a sudden...
You know, you people are nobodies.
I'm sorry?
You people take jobs from us here in the U.S. You're all just dumb folks in Asia that are only good for nothing, you hear me? There's only one Filipino I know that is good, and that's Manny Pacquiao.
He's talking about the famous Filipino boxer. Customer rants about Manny Pacquiao for several minutes.
And you think you're so sweet, but all you Filipinos do is just lie down on your back when you see a foreigner so they could take you to the States and live a comfortable life. You shouldn't even be doing this job. You just need to find a foreign guy and seduce him into taking you to the U.S. That's the only thing you're good for, nothing else. You people take your jobs here in the States when you shouldn't even be working.
At this point, I was already pissed off of him. But company policy states we can't hang up on our customers. If that's your opinion, sir, I respect that. May I know what I can do for you regarding your account? I'm trying to be calm and continue the call for auditing purposes.
What I need you to do is to remove this goddamn transaction off my credit card.
I see. The transaction can be removed, sir. I'll just have to transfer you over to my colleagues in the dispute department so they can assist you further. I was customer service. Removing transactions or charges were a different department's task, so I did have to transfer him, even if he wasn't rude.
Oh, so now you're transferring me to somebody else. Unbelievable, see? You can't do your job. You should quit. No, don't transfer me. Do your job and remove it right now.
I was already so tempted to hang up on him. He is demanding for me to do something when he wasn't even giving me details about his card info so I can see the account, nor the details about the transaction he wants me to remove. And since it's a cancellation of a charge which another department handles, I could just transfer him directly without taking the details, since the other department will just ask him for it again, and wanted to avoid any frustration from the customer about repeating information. Sir, I'm afraid I'm not capable of removing your charge. It is going to be something another department has to do.
No, cancel it right now or else I'll cancel the card.
I was thinking at the back of my head that if this guy cancels his relationship with our bank, it would be one less douche that I would need to handle. Sir, even if I want to, I can't, because I have no access to cancellation. And as I have no access, meaning I can't cancel it, hence why I need to transfer you over to another department who can remove it for you. If you don't want to be transferred, then the charge stays, because I can't remove it, even if I wanted to. So I'll transfer you now, if that's all right with you.
Fine, you can't do your job, then transfer me to someone who can. You're a waste of money. To think you're getting paid to just talk to the phone, put us on hold, or transfer us back and forth.
I'll be transferring you now. Please stay on the line. I transferred the customer without waiting for a response. So there, my pride as a Filipino, as a woman, and as a person has been entirely mocked by some white dude who thinks everyone should do whatever he wants immediately. Thank you all for listening. 4. I've been working for a bank for the past 3 years. I consider myself to be a pretty relaxed and laid-back person, so I don't feel like I get in battles frequently with the customers. Countless times I've called customer service, and I feel like the customer service I got was awful, so I don't want others to go through that. I also really enjoy my job and feeling like I've helped someone with their issue. That said, there are still some calls where I'd love to just hang up, but I've never done it, with the exception of once. 30 seconds into a call, a guy said he was gonna come in my face. WTF. Where I work, we have been told if we are put in an abusive situation, we must warn the customer prior to terminating and give them a chance to cool down. I've had to give the, "Hey, I'd like to keep this call professional" warning a few times before, and it works wonders. I didn't today, just hung up. For some background, our bank is strict about certain fee waivers. There are fees that we are not able to waive at all, even if we tried. There is literally no button for it. If we think it's a bank error, we can send a notice to a much higher-up supervisor. But it has to be a serious situation, or we will get in trouble when they ask my supervisor why we are requesting them for fee waivers. I had a guy call in and immediately hit me with a bunch of questions. Some of them I wasn't even able to answer because it was outside my realm of expertise. Or I legally could not because he was asking sensitive info about his banking relationship, and I did not have access to that. It was outside the realm of what a customer service rep would normally have access to. It would be like asking your pizza delivery driver for legal and tax advice and then asking him to solve a complicated calculus equation and recite a Shakespearean soliloquy from heart. I tried to calm down and explain what I knew. "Sir, you're behind on your payment because there was a balance due on," and I gave the date. "I do not have access to that other information as I am a customer service rep, but in typical situations here's how it goes." He let the difficult questions go at that point. What was important was that it wasn't his fault that he was late on his payment, so I needed to waive fees. "Sir, we sent a statement by mail stating this payment was due by," and I gave the date again. "Well, we promised him by phone he didn't have to pay." "I'm very sorry we misinformed you, sir, but we sent this in writing that a payment was due." "Well, he tried to pay by phone, but we were closed, so I needed to waive fees." "I apologize, sir, but we do not waive fees. Don't agree with it, but it's not my company." "Sir, I do not know why you were misinformed and can't comprehend why that happened, and I apologize. I show that we sent a statement by mail a month ago stating a payment was due." The man starts acting belligerent, and I hear him and a woman yelling at each other and talking trash about me like I was not there and couldn't hear it. He said I told him to pay now or I'll report him to the credit bureaus. I said no such thing, never even implied this. That I can't see anything and can't help. And essentially just seemed to craft a narrative about how I was refusing to help when it was completely opposite. He just didn't want to accept the help and wanted to be a victim. He then starts handing the phone to random people every time a new person comes on the line, including being put on speakerphone. We have to warn them that the call is being recorded for legal reasons in some states, and ask who I'm speaking with. If I'm speaking with someone not on file, I can't release any info. The woman, Anne, is put on the phone and states her full name after I state the recording blurb. I'm Ann Doe. Look, we really just need these fees waived. Can you just please waive them because I want to finish cleaning. Please, just waive them. This call is already going south and I feel uncomfortable as I've already said no. On top of that, the customer constantly switching the phone between people is confusing. So I figure maybe I'll see if there are any type of fees I can credit back that will please him. I ask Anne to wait a second and let me look. There are no fees I can credit back. And I'm sorry about the wait, I can't waive any fees, it does not allow me to. Our bank does not waive fees. So you can't waive the fees? No, I'm sorry. Anne puts me on speakerphone and goes ballistic. Tell me why! Tell me why! She begins shrieking. Okay, wait just a moment. At this point, I raise my voice and become firm. I need to know everyone I'm speaking with. I read the disclosure about recording. No! You can't answer my question. Answer it. What is wrong with you? Is something the matter with you? Just do your job! She is going absolutely nuts and my blood starts boiling. I knew raising my voice was a mistake, but her behavior completely caught me off guard. Perhaps there was a better way to handle it, but I was stunned with how quickly her behavior had changed. Ma'am, I need to know who I'm speaking with before I proceed. Who all is in the room? You know who it is and you're avoiding my question. Anne was completely belligerent and shouting insults into the phone, and then she mocked me. Hello? You gonna pretend to hang up? This call may be monitored or recorded. Hello? She sounded like an 8-year-old. I went silent, kind of froze. I had no idea what to say or do. I didn't even want to give this person a chance to play nice. I let her scream at and mock me for about 30 seconds. And then just click. I was thinking, what do I say to move this conversation forward? Do I jump in and give another opportunity to this person to attempt to bully and gaslight me? I just didn't want to put up with it. Consequences be damned. Admittedly, I don't remember if she said anything extremely awful. I just remember the belligerent, sometimes incoherent screaming. And lastly, I think that the "what's wrong with you" thing really bothered me, because I've been a victim of gaslighting like this before. It made me feel like I was completely crazy for something that was problematic and a reasonable boundary for me to set. It definitely triggered something in me, and I didn't want to continue to take this. Here's the kicker. You know how much the fees were? It was for a single $1. This woman and man had gone ballistic over having to pay $1 after not paying the balance owed for multiple months. Unless I'm given a reason otherwise, I believe what the customer says. One of our reps screwed up. They didn't get their statement. They were freaked out about the bill because they never used the bank product and were scared to call. Whatever. But in this instance, this guy had already called us maybe multiple times to complain and was behind multiple months. On top of that, he was actually granted a fee waiver 6 months prior when the same thing happened. He seemed to use credit, carry a balance and not pay, decide to pay after multiple missed payments, and then raise hell with our reps to get out of the consequences that come after not paying your bill on time. So, yeah. This call happened a while back, so I'm comfortable with sharing this story. I wrote this the day it happened and just waited a while. I never got in trouble for hanging up, and I don't know if I ever got caught. 5. Back in 2013, my boyfriend and I had just moved to the Bay Area, and I was desperate for work so I could help with rent and bills, so that my boyfriend Bubbles and his longtime friend didn't have to foot the entire bill between them on their Social Security. For a while, I worked for an MLM who I made feel bad for what they fully intended to do to me, and I was terminated in the kindest and most understanding way you can imagine before I found a job at a call center. It was one of those places that sold overpriced tubs for seniors with lights and jets, and I was upfront that I wasn't interested if there was no base pay, which they assured me there was, so I was hired pretty much on the spot, since the turnover rate at those places is notoriously high. As I was given the tour, I noticed a pizza guy in the break room, and the smell of cheap coffee was strong, but I thought nothing of it, as they were mentioned as a benefit for employees. Training was short, and I really wanted to work hard to go from the cold call floor to the warm call floor. I was familiar with the program being used, and didn't need any accommodations to do what I needed to do. The script was dry. We weren't really told much on how to encourage people to accept having a consultant in the house, other than the usual, and certainly we were told nothing about which healthcare programs may help support the cost of merchandise. I found out several things quickly. The pizza was a lie. The supervisors started friendly competitions for their teams, so that during a 1 or 2 hour period, the team that set up the most appointments would get a $5 Little Caesars pizza to share in victory. But for the 4 months I worked there, the only pizza I saw was during my interview, and apparently only because the entire floor badgered the supervisors to put up or shut up. Coffee was only served once a day, strategically between agents' breaks, so that only the receptionists and supervisors could get it, but we all faked needing to pee to have some of the only good thing about this space. We had our own cups that we were supposed to keep in our lockers in the hallway outside the production floor, but it was an unsaid rule for agents to sit with their empty cups between their legs until we smelled the coffee, and then the race of management versus agents was on. They disabled our ability to mark numbers that were on the DNC registry and set it up in the system so that instead of being removed from solicitations permanently, they were removed for only a month, which constitutes as harassment in this state. So over half the calls I took were irate seniors who legitimately had a beef with the company and wanted the calls to stop. I felt terrible for these people and came to recognize a few of the numbers on site, which I immediately marked DNC to save them slight hassle. Unhappy that some customers were locking the consultants out of the house after setting up appointments, management reduced bonuses from setting up any kind of appointment to only for confirmed appointments. They also tried to crack down on us getting coffee, but one of the guys pissed at his station and said they couldn't restrict our right to use the bathrooms when needed. Gross, but effective. We weren't threatened for termination when we wanted to change feminine products or use the can. I guess a reduction of bonuses made sense, but I never did figure out why they tried to restrict coffee as a management-only privilege when they pointed it out as a benefit for all employees on site during interviews and training. Into my 3rd month there, things got weirder. Management tried to keep us from using the bathrooms on site and tried to say that we would have to walk or drive down the road for the gas station during our lunch breaks, as we were going to be locked out of the bathrooms on the 1st floor. That only the owners and managers were allowed to use the ones on the 2nd floor after an incident involving toilet roll being set on fire in the men's room that no one owned up to. One of the gals brought up that this was a violation of the law and that if they didn't want to have OSHA taking up residence in their butts, they'd rethink this course of action. The bathrooms were unlocked after a day. There used to be a fridge we could put our lunches in, though I never used it because of obligatory food thieves, but apparently at this time management was trying to cut costs where they could. I never figured out if this part was true, but I can't outright say it's a lie, as I know some of my co-workers did have green cards. Apparently, a manager found drug paraphernalia in the back of the freezer, and that lost us the privilege of using the fridge for our perishables. They taped the fridge shut with painter's tape and unplugged it. The paraphernalia wasn't related to anything the green cards applied to, so it was either a lie fabricated to justify cutting costs, or someone was indeed being very dumb. Into the 4th month, management or owners had another grand idea. That we had to get a confirmed appointment every hour, or we would be sent home despite us rehashing old numbers and having harassed many of the people we called for months about trying to order overpriced equipment under the guise of senior aid. The supervisors still try to get us to play their games with the promise of cheap pizza, But if we weren't impressed with their failure to deliver before, we certainly were underwhelmed now that our pay was being impacted. I got sent home early for a week before I was finally ticked off at the BS at work. I handed in my 2-week notice and counted the days as the floor supervisors tried to whip the agents into a frenzy to schedule appointments. Every day they'd lose people on the floor and try to call people from the evening shift to fill in for the gaping holes in the morning shifts. And then they'd expect the evening shift to come in for their scheduled times to work, for presumably the same hourly requirement, or they get sent home early as well. 3 days from supreme happiness, I looked at the schedule and saw that these sorry excuses for bosses had scheduled me, and I went to HR to tell them that they'd have to revise this schedule, as I wouldn't be in next week. When they tried to explain that I hadn't worked long enough to get FMLA, I told them that I'd turned in my 2 weeks' notice, and I wasn't going to be in, ever, after this week. The flaccid toad's mouth gaped like a fish as I turned and went back to my station for another hour until I was sent home. After I left, I didn't even wait before I got back into the job hunt, but I did text a few of my workmates, and months later, I ran into one who shared the ultimate fate of that place. Apparently, a month after I left, everyone who still worked there turned up, and the doors were locked. It was no surprise. The supervisors were usually late at the end, except that this time the feds had showed up to pack all the employees up for questioning. The owners had somehow gotten wind and refused their employees entry to the site, as they bailed, and even the employees who had been fired in the past month had also been rounded up. I was just outside the bracket, so I wasn't herded in, but wow, that place was a hole. Just how much of a scumbag do you have to be as a business owner to actually get the feds to roll in, to hunt you down, and leave your underlings to hold the bag? Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Please Hold, number 8. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Been a little while since I did one of these, not through lack of trying. These ones seem to take a little bit longer to put together, but I don't plan on giving up on them. I'll put them together as and when I can, and they'll just kind of happen when they're ready. A bit like the Idiots in the Wild. They just kind of happen. Right, when's this going up? I think this is going to be Monday for us. Monday, which will be the 7th. Oh, okay. Christmas is almost here. And as usual, the Doctor Who Christmas special isn't airing on Christmas Day, because why would they do that? Grumble. Okay, I'm not going to grumble too much this video. I'm going to be nice, Freezer. I'm not usually that grumpy. I'm a very wonderful, sunshiny person. Kind of. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.